looks like, in the typical life cycle, the testing is coming at the end, which has to be, from the beginning. So let me take you through this. My colleagues spoke about the challenges that you see in the IoT space, right? So how are we going to address those? So some of those aspects I will cover in today's presentation. Glimpse of the various protocols that are there, the sensor types. Basically, you're measuring a lot of data and then controlling the equipments. The typical the IoT thing. We could see that most of that they already spoke about. HAN is home area network. It has now even expanded into BAN, body area network. Your body is also becoming a space of devices. So with so much of the stuff that's happening, basically if you sum it up, you have sensors, there are embedded devices, and control system to measure and monitor the devices, and most of that is connected through wireless connectivity. So the good thing is it's increasing the automation, it's providing a lot of convenience, there are a lot of analytics that's going on, right? But at the same time, it brings in the challenges. I think we spoke about those challenges. The space is becoming very crowded with a lot of devices coming in, right? So how do you address the environmental effects, right? And there's so many devices operating very close by. How do you handle the interferences, right? So the reliability aspects, right? Some of these devices have to work continuously, right? There's no stoppage of these devices. So these are some of the challenges that we see in the IoT space, right? And not only those, the earlier speakers spoke about the different scenarios that you will have these devices installed, right? Industrial gases, right? It is prone to corrosion, then the temperature stress, humidity aspects, right? You will have the telematic control unit fitted into a drilling machine, the vibrations aspect, the shock, the voltage surges, right? So many of those things are coming in. You need to have a patient monitoring system working in northeastern parts, for example, high altitude. Do the infusion pumps, do they operate properly in those altitudes, right? And all of the earlier speakers spoke on this high dependency on the battery, right? Even when the battery is dying, it should still send the right message to the master. So all of these aspects are there, right? So how do you? So there are interests of the manufacturers, the consumers, the enterprises. Their interests have to be addressed. These challenges have to be addressed. That is where these regulatory and the safety labs come into place. So the test labs that I'm going to speak about, so they cover basically the reliability aspects of these IoT devices, the safety aspects, the regulatory aspects, and the interoperability. They spoke about interoperability is a big challenge. There are some standards that are coming up on the Bluetooth NFC interoperability, right? It's a work in progress. We already heard about that. So when do you test? As I was saying, so the earlier you start your testing process, the better it is, right? Even when you are building an IoT system, at a component level itself, when you are selecting the components, you should take care of these aspects, the reliability aspects, the safety aspects, the regulatory aspects, right? And then when you get into the proto, again to see that the things are in good shape. And finally, once you set up the whole manufacturing process, right, a pilot phase, and to ensure that things are as per plan. So I will just delve a little more on these different tests. Okay. So the reliability test. Okay. So look at a light sensor, right? If it misses couple of key events, right, then the whole purpose of having that device is lost, right? And you have an irrigation pump, right, in an agricultural sector, right? If it fails to switch on at the right point, right? So that's not what is expected of the product, right? And I spoke about the telematic systems. So there are multiple scenarios. So the point that I'm trying to stress here is the reliability is very key aspect of the products that we are conceiving in this IoT space. So again, the test labs will take these products at component level and at the system level. For example, if somebody is claiming, the data sheet is claiming that the sensor works for 1 million times, we have systems built in which will test it for 1 million times, that it's working as per the specification, right? If a wireless module claims that it is operating at a certain data speed, we test that, right? The battery aspects, which is very critical here, right? The discharge cycles, right? The charging cycles, it says like 1,000 times or 5,000 times. So those are tested with the test labs. This is a glimpse of the Wipro's Tarang lab. It's a around 10,000 square foot test lab, where we have invested significantly for our design services. So Wipro's product engineering services, where we take the whole product from the concept stage to the manufacturing stage, the end stage, right? So these are some of the labs in that 10,000 square foot space. So this is a picture of the anechoic chamber, where it's the electromagnetic interferences are addressed. Then we have the acoustic lab to test the sound, right? Vibration, shock, thermal testing, halt testing. That's basically you're testing against the temperature and the vibration, highly accelerated like this. Then the environmental testing, right? Where you also test the humidity aspects and some of the other aspects. Like when you are in the proto stage, you're building the product, right? You want to see whether the temperatures are proper, right? This IR sensor camera will show you how the temperature profile is there for your product. So all of these facilities are available right here, right? I mean, a lot of the product ideas, the startup folks are here, right? If you are building the products, to take it to the global the market, right? So we'll talk about what are the different kinds of the marks, the certifications you need to have to take your products beyond the India to the global reach. All of that you can get right here, right across here in the labs that Wipro has. Yeah, these are some of the the regulatory aspects, right? So regulatory aspects covers these three elements: the EMI efficiency, immunity and compliance of the electromagnetic aspect, the product safety, and the radio spectrum. Because the connectivity and so many the protocols that are coming in, the radio spectrum aspects also plays a very key role. So FCC for US market, CSA's Canada Association, TUV Lab for Germany. Then you have UL again for the US part, right? ETL. Then for the Europe you have the CE mark, for China CCC, right? And this is CTIC for the Australia market. Then this is SAPS for the Africa market, right? So you have all of these marks are very essential for the products that you're building to get access to those markets, right? And all of that, there are many labs in India which are addressing a specific set of test cases or a specific set of geos. At Wipro Tarang Lab, we cover all the geos and all the different kinds of the segments, whether it is defense, automotive, IT products, right? So through these tests and these specifications, we can address that. In fact, as we were discussing earlier, specific to the IoT, these are for pretty much for all the products. If you look at the IoT angle, there are two things that I want to highlight here. One is these tests become more relevant in the IoT space because the kind of environment these devices are going to operate, right? the kind of the space, the crowded space or the interference, all of that, these devices will be stressed to, right? So that is one aspect where it becomes very important for your product to succeed in the market. The second aspect is, there are multiple standards, the standard bodies, they are trying to come up with, specifically for IoT. For example, HC is calling this as low throughput network, okay? LTN they call. So they are coming up with, you have to operate in the low power, low throughput, right, and very simple and efficient. So the devices that are operating in this model, they are calling it as LTN, low throughput network. And there are already 3 specifications have come from HC, LTN 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so you could look at those aspects. So the standards are pretty fast emerging, and but they will be based on these principles. Coming to the EMI, EMC aspects, right? The regulatory thing. There are 2 things. One is how much the electromagnetic aspect your device is emitting, right? Either through over the air or through connected, whatever connectivity it has, the cables and those aspects. And the other aspect is the nearby devices, they continue to emit the electromagnetic aspect. So how much immune your device is to that? So both, one is the compliance, the other is the immunity. So there are many tests in that. This is what the FCC or the IEC, the international standard, CISPAR. So all of them recommend a lot of the standards covering the radiated emissions, as I was talking, conducted emission, electrostatic discharge, right, surge. You could get into the technical details of each of these tests, but predominantly these are the multiple tests that we conduct in our labs to get these certifications. Similarly, when it comes to the safety aspects, right, this is mainly to deal with the human-machine interactions, right? How safe is your device in the space it is operating, right? The leakage currents, the dielectric withstand, the earthing aspects, right? The pressure, impact hammer, right?
CMU, we picked up CMU. Right. None of us, including the Infosys and Wipros, could afford it. None. So we actually did a smart deal there. We got them to give a special license, and we trained the trainers out here, set up the things at NASCOM. So we basically effectively shared the cost of doing this for the industry. And guess what? We have a world-class industry because we picked up the best standards that the world had to offer. This is a simple lesson to you guys who are getting into this space, which is the reason I purposely asked these guys to come here. Most of you guys didn't know that Wipro had this set up here. It's available for you guys, but pick up the world's best standards, and you'll get a world. You can beat the world.
It's just to add to that, Arun's point. Actually, it's not that it's a very extremely costly affair or nothing like that. These you can get it. Some of the tests all the way starting from the 5K, $5,000 to if you want to go through elaborate for all the countries and all that, maybe it is still we are looking at around 70K, 80K kind of things. But it cost and for some of the startups here, like even we did some tests for St. John's, some of the equipments that they are having. We are doing it at a very nominal cost, right? So Wipro being a big corporate, that's what Arun was saying.
Okay, don't get scared about dealing with Wipro, is all I'm saying. So, if they cause a problem, come to me. Sorry.
2-3 days kind of enough. It's not a months together things like that. It is the equipments and they're all quite capex intensive. But the tests are they won't take such long. Okay. Unless you want to get into so many geos and so long, right? Otherwise, the basic sets would be done in a week or 2 max. you know.
No, so I was thinking on the overall cycle in the sense, like let's say I have a design and to get to the certification, what is your, I mean in your experience, it's not just on the testing side, but in order to build a product, let's say, how long have you seen?
No, it varies from the complexity of the product, you know, because you guys know, you know, to build a high-end server to a small IoT product, right? You know, so we did a test for, you know, Bluetooth watch, okay, which will, you know, you will have a tip varied, and then, you know, if it gets lost in a crowd, so it will send you the signal.
I can pick up on that one. I think that's a very broad question. I think hardware IoT development cycles can be from 6 months to 18 months. That's way beyond
clear here. You know, so if you have to go through the radio part of the thing, you know, typically we have seen like, you know, it will be like in the range of 60 to 80K dollars.
That's where it's scary.
That's the currently it is that way when we are doing for the telematic control units and all that.
We'll come back to it.
Sure. No, but if it is just a Wi-Fi logo certificates and all that, they are like $3,000, $4,000 kind of things. We have to look at the specific thing that you want to do.
Folks will take other questions offline.
I'll be here. So, sorry. FDA or the medical part, we have some of those things.
We can get FDA certification.
Right. Thanks.
Intrinsic safety and preemptive certification.
Sorry?
Intrinsic safety. IS or FLP test.
I need to check with my lab folks. You know, we have the corrosion gas and all that, chambers, gas chambers and all that we have. This specific thing we can discuss. Thank you, folks.
I think